in addition to your point about some of these Middle Eastern countries that their survival is front of mind for them at all times, I think the further that we get, or any society gets away from the survival line, the more we start to just create these own problems for ourselves.
Yes.
Like, do you think that kids that are starving to death in wherever they happen to be are...
That was a very politically correct way of putting that.
Dude, he's an incredible person, and like going back to the psychology too, he tells this story year round, man. He speaks on, to whether it's fire departments, he speaks in the intelligence community at conferences, he's on podcasts all the time. He never stops living this story. And he's not doing it for himself. It's not for financial gain. He's actually working on a book now. I think it'd probably be okay for me to say that, but it's not for personal gain, man. It's not for any of that. It's so that we never forget. Never forget means never forget. And that's why he's doing it. So like, gosh, man, and it's so true. 9/11 was just, especially in the kind of people that we have on our shows, it's this one constant that connects everyone. Like fucking John was there on 9/11 at CIA headquarters. Brent enlisted because of 9/11.
Yep. So many guys did that.
It's unreal, dude. And
the mission status changed because of 9/11. All of it.
100%.
Yeah.
And to your point, like it wasn't just this time in America. It literally changed the entire world because,
Literally, I didn't realize this until somewhat recently, actually, but I'm an idiot because it was so obvious. Every military guy I've had on, all of whom are no longer active, so they were in it, during this global war on terror period. Some of them were in it before it and during it and after it. Every single person I've ever had on, at some point the question comes up, where were you on 9/11?
Yeah.
And then how did that change things? And it changed everything. For all of them. I mean, we were fighting in fucking Bosnia before 9/11. People don't even remember that, And then these same guys, war footing over here. Let's go. And then we all know the fallout of everything and how it got taken advantage of by a select group of not great people. But it is such a crazy, crazy inflection point, not just for our country, but for the world. So I always appreciate when guys like Tim get to go on and just talk about the day itself and what that was like,
Big time.
You ever worry though that, people were so fucking together on September 12th, 2001. I can remember that. You ever worry that that's unfortunately the kind of stuff it takes for people to actually come together and put aside some base differences?
I don't worry that. I believe that.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, and I hope that day doesn't come.
Yeah.
But to your point, September 12th, bro, none of the things that, we've discussed around this narrative versus this one, Julian versus Dalton. Julian's not Julian, Dalton's not Dalton.
Right.
We're Americans.
Right. I remember a story my mom told me back then. It's just one of those things I can remember from that week. She was in the gym like a few days later, and one of the women that she always talked to in the gym, they were walking out. And it's crazy to think about, but 8 months before 9/11 was like the most contested election ever. And people were very divided over that. And the woman said to her, she said, I wasn't really sure that Bush actually won, and I don't like him. I voted for Gore, and I wanted him to win, but I'm fully behind him now. And I hope to see us respond to this the way we're supposed to. And obviously that didn't end up turning out great. But something about, like, could you imagine someone saying that about like Trump right now? If something bad happened, but like it's not inconceivable, which is crazy. You could get the person that really hated him to be like, well, they just, whoever it is, just hit us, and I'm rooting for him. And it's like, it's so sad to me that sometimes it takes that.
Well, I hope it doesn't, man. But that's something that I've learned from having these people on too, and just like the insight into these radical Islamists and how they think, and they think long term, bro. It doesn't need to happen. Doesn't need to happen tomorrow, and they'll play the long game. And I hope that we're wrong about that hypothesis, and I hope that it doesn't take something on that scale. But yeah,
we have a very unique American view in one respect. That's a huge downside, which is that we have trouble even thinking about fucking tomorrow, as we're one of the youngest countries in the world. And we are also not primarily one race. We are all different types of people all coming together, which is the beautiful thing about our country. The thing about a lot of these other countries is they primarily will all be one different separate race, and they have ties that go back thousands of years on the land that they're on. And they also have borders with other countries where there have been massive, geopolitical events and wars that happen between them. Whereas we are, we got borders to the south and north that we got to take care of and stuff, but we are separated from the rest of the world by seas on both sides, which is a huge advantage. I always joke, like outside of the War of 1812, we have never been invaded for a sustained period, and it really fucking shows. And so we are complacent, whereas other places, they generationally understand that they could not exist tomorrow. And so they are thinking about, depending on the culture, it could be 100 years out or it could be 1,000 years out. And like, there's a respect I have for that. But to your point, anyone who could be an enemy or a perceived enemy or potential enemy, just statistically speaking, they're thinking farther out than we do. And, I think unfortunately, a lot of people in America, we take that for granted. And it's crazy that we do that. And, September 11th wasn't that long ago. You know what I mean? But that's what happens over time. People start to focus on other things.
Dude, and I think that, in addition to your point about some of these Middle Eastern countries, that their survival is front of mind for them at all times. I think the further that we get, or any society gets away from the survival line, the more we start to just create these own problems for ourselves.
Yes.
Like, do you think that kids that are starving to death in wherever they happen to be are...
That was a very politically correct way of putting that.
And I'll tell you why I said that. Do you think that those kids are worried about, standing in Starbucks waiting for their fucking coffee and complaining about being oppressed?
Nope.
And I said it that way because I don't, I try not to speak on things that I'm not well educated enough to speak on. In general, on camera is different. And,
How's it different on camera?
That's a good question. I guess because, I'm trying to just be cognizant of the fact that this is not going anywhere. Like this will be here. And I don't want to say things that I'm not perfectly educated on that won't age well, or things that I don't know for a fact.
Oh, the things that are happening are going on.
Yeah. Meaning, right. Like, I just don't want to speak on what I don't know. But again, like off camera, maybe I can have a conversation with someone that is a little different than on camera. That's a good question, though.
No, I respect that. It's the one thing, I think the reason my podcast works is because the cameras go on and nothing changes. Mm-hmm. The one thing you have to be a little bit more measured about is when you get to the most controversial geopolitical issues, things happening around the world where there are massive, lives lost going on in different facets. You got to it matters how you say things.
Right.
And that's what, you will literally see with some of these things, you will see me pause and be like, I know how I'd say this if we were just letting it hang with the boys, but I owe more respect to the situation to say it in a more, educated sounding and being conscious of what I don't know sounding way. And that's the one place where I think you have to, and that's good that you have that, where you have to be careful. Because also, I don't think of this thing as anything serious, but it does have eyeballs, and you don't know who's hearing that and who's passively being like, oh, that must be what the truth is.
Well, exactly.
And I don't want them taking that from me. That's not, people out there need to decide things on their own, not because I fucking say something. That'd be a very bad idea.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as you were saying that, I was kind of thinking more about that. And I think that number one, I try to be professional. I think professionalism kind of across the board as it relates to my podcast is really, really important to me. And not to say that I'm perfect at it, but I really try to do my best with it. But the other thing is the fact that I've kind of drilled into my own head not to interject my own opinion on my podcast because that's not what I want. I don't want me on my show. I want the guest on my show. So it's funny being here, sitting here now and thinking about, okay, well now I'm talking a little bit. So it's just something that I've kind of embedded into the way I act when the cameras are on because I want to keep myself out of it. So
are you afraid of the outcomes of what the response could be to that?
No, no. The reason I like what I mean by that is like my show is, if I'm doing my job right, I'm talking as little as possible. I'm not interjecting my own personal opinions or stories or weighing in on something that the guest says. I'm keeping my fucking mouth shut and asking pertinent questions and following the thread. And the interview is about them. It has nothing to do with me. And I think that's what's been working about it because people crave that. There's so many, because again, bro, like, as you know, I think this is a fascinating concept. A podcast, or an interview rather, I think that you've called yourself a podcaster or a conversationalist, not an interviewer. I've heard you say that you've never interviewed anyone a day in your life.
Yeah.
There you go. So the mechanics of an interview are very, very different than that of a conversation.
Yes.
If I'm talking to you in a coffee shop, if we're having a conversation and you're talking for 20 minutes at a time and I'm just fucking looking at you like this, you're going to be like, this guy is a sociopath and I'm worried about what's in his pocket right now. But in an interview, that is the format and it doesn't work otherwise. You know what I mean? So like you have to, for me, I've had to beat these things into my system to resist the natural urge to jump in and convey to someone audibly that you're listening, right? Because the more you say, that's fucking annoying to listen to.
After a while, yeah.
So you learn to do things like convey that you're listening with your facial expressions. And again, these are all things that like I try to be hypersensitive of on my show. And obviously they are kind of dripping into other aspects of this. But yeah.
Well, you're doing an awesome job, bro. And I know you'll keep developing like how you know, what your role in it is. I understand that. It's something you do have to consciously think about. Just if you are getting attention, like you're not necessarily moving the legislative needle, but there's the needle overall when you put all these different shows together of like popular opinion and what people listen to and not. And it's a tough thing to think about. But you do an amazing job with the editing of your show.
Thank you.
The questions are great. The guests have been amazing. You've been at it now for coming up on a couple years, which is great. I like to see people sustain with that. So everyone can check out Dalton Fischer Podcast on YouTube. Video is also on Spotify now too, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we got it there. And then
because of you, I believe.
Listen, bro, I told you, put that video on Spotify.
I know. We are.
That's great. That's great, especially at the quality you're doing. It'd be like a waste not to put it on there. But you also got your Instagram account. We'll put that link down below. And then are you on X too?
I like made one, but I don't know how
All
I feel
right, we'll
about
put
getting on
that
X.
down there on X. Yeah, X is an interesting place these days.
I don't know if it's great for my mental health, to tell you the truth.
I don't think it's great for anybody's, but free speech is painful, as they say. So
fair enough.
Anyway, thanks so much for talking, man. It's great to finally hear like a little bit of your perspective from the other side of the mic, and hope to do it again sometime.
Dude, yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me, man. It's cool to be here. And like I said, if it was anybody else, I don't know that I would have done it because I didn't want the attention. But it was like I said, man, you're an inspiration for me, being shown that it can be done. So it's cool to be sitting across from you rather than watching you in your parents' house with Jim Lawler talking about controlled sociopathy.
That's awesome, man. I really appreciate that. It's very, very, very cool to hear that. So thank you, and keep doing what you're doing.
Will do, brother.
All right, everybody else, you know what it is. Give it a thought. Get back to me. Peace. Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.